This one. So one of our guys that we trained with, his name is Ev, and Ev has double hip replacement twice, right? So when he was about 30, he had double hip replacement, and then about 30 years down the road, he had a double hip replacement again, and that was when I met him, is when he was like in the process of having double hip replacement the second time. And Ev could not do hip escapes very easily. He found it very troublesome and very painful to elevate his hips and then drop off to the side, right? So mechanically, what's happening when we hip escape is I'm making points of contact between my feet and one of my shoulders, and then the rest of me like doesn't touch the floor. The rest of me just like scoots and slides from the pivot point of one of my toes and one of my shoulders, right? So in this particular scenario, I'm gonna elevate, and then I'm going to move my hips out. I'm completely balanced on my left shoulder. I'm completely balanced on my right foot, and I move my hips away. Well, Ev found that particular movement very difficult. And so mechanically, I want him to be able to escape from, say, munigatami, or what you would call side control, right? So mechanically, I need Ev to be able to elevate and drop his hips away, and Ev can't do that. So some of the things that we worked on were what we called shoulder shrimps, right? So we would still move our hips, but we wouldn't move our hips with our leg and back muscles. We move it with our arms instead. And so Tim comes in here in this munigatami position, and we're gonna frame the same as we would anyway. And we're gonna try to frame with the lower part of our arm here against his hip. And I'm gonna try to frame against his opposite shoulder over here. Let's turn a little bit. With this top part of my bicep, right? Like right above where if I had muscles, the muscle would show, right? So I'm gonna frame there, and all I'm gonna do here is like just use my core and turn to my side. I'm not gonna try to lift my hips up. Now, at this point, if Tim tries to flatten me out, he's gonna have a lot of success with that. Like, this is a strength battle. But sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. If you can't use the biggest muscles in your body, you gotta use the next biggest ones. So I'm just gonna try to sit up into him, and he's gonna try to push me back down, right? Boom. Now this is where this actually becomes a little more useful. So I'm gonna rock up, he pushes me back down, and look, let's turn back a little bit. When he rocks me back down, I can pop his arm open, or his leg open a little bit with that landing flat, right? And then I'm just gonna come in and do that again. Right, but this time when I come and do it, I'm not gonna go this side of his head, because that's what he's expecting. I'm gonna shoot my arm across and go this side of his head, right? So first time I rock up, he pushes me back down, I pop him up there and then rock up here. Now at this point, I'm come up onto my arm, and I'm gonna frame here, get a grip if I can, I'm gonna frame here into Tim's body, and if he tries to push me down now, I just open my arm up into him. I don't stiff arm him, but I kind of frame across his chest with my elbow to wrist and this grip, and I push my shoulder back, right? You can see that I'm using my core to crunch my shoulder away from him. And now that my shoulder's back here, I have a pivot point for my hips. And now I can use my knee against him here and push my hips away, right? So I start off, I rock him up and pop and rock him up again, right? And here I scoop my shoulder back, a shoulder shrimp. And then from this point, I can crunch myself. And notice I'm not having to lift my hips up and do these articulate hip motions here. I'm just using my abs and the low contact that I have with the floor with my shoulder to crunch myself away and bring my knees up. And after we showed Ev that modification, he was able to have a lot more success in newaza, and Ev struggled in the throwing portion of class anyway because he had double hip replacement. He was and he was looking at a second one, and he had bone growth that was going down into his muscles. It was very painful for him, so he enjoyed newaza more, and he struggled in newaza a little bit less after we showed him this. He had good newaza. And shout out to you, Ev Truitt. You really made, like, you pushed my limits as a teacher, because I'm like, man, you gotta hip escape. That's like a fundamental part of judo. You have to be able to hip escape. And this is a modification that enabled him to hip escape even when he had a lot of trouble moving his hips.